Welcome to the Fanatical Elfz Show, part of the Elfz Network. We are a bunch of wild and crazy Cleveland Browns fans, bringing you all the latest in Browns news. Tune in now. And good evening to all you wild and crazy Cleveland Browns fans out there. This is the Fanatical Elfz Show, part of the Fanatical Elfz Network. Hello, Steve. Hello, Elliot. How are you doing on this Thursday evening?
Wonderful.
Fantastic, man. How are you, John?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. So yes.
Wow, aren't we polite?
I know. I know.
My goodness.
Guys, we just, we've had a full week, and I know that.
Stick my pinky finger out while I drink my orange Kool-Aid.
Well, we had a full week, and we can laugh today, and that's good because I think many of us during the week, I had the chance to listen to all of you guys early on your shows, the Browniacs, and then the Dog Pound South. And Steve, I think you started it off Tuesday morning with a very solemn sort of, good morning, wish that hadn't happened. And, we're talking about what happened to Nick Chubb. Obviously, the game kind of takes a back seat to what a horrific moment that was for Nick Chubb. And, we all love Nick Chubb. I mean, we've talked about Nick Chubb endlessly. He was on the brink of, he was only 40 or 30 some yards away from passing Mike Pruitt. He probably would have done it Monday night if he had continued to play, and would have certainly passed Leroy Kelly on the scale. But beyond all that, it was just a gruesome injury and heartache. He's had his injuries before, and when he played at Georgia, had that same leg, that same knee reconstructed. So there's a lot of concern amongst us, and I just wanted to get your feelings today and how you're looking at this for the Browns and for Nick Chubb. Steve, let's start with you.
All I can say is when it happened and when the announcer says we can't show the replay, I looked at my wife and went, I need to go out back and get a little air.
Yeah.
I was out there for a couple minutes and came back in and just went, well, injuries do happen. And he is a big part of the offense. He is the offense on a lot of games and a lot of halves. But I think winning for Nick is a great rallying cry for this team. So moving forward, they're just going to have to deal without having him. I think that signing Kareem Hunt helps tremendously. Not in the way that he's going to play, just in the way of him being on the team. So, things happen. It's the NFL. Injuries are going to happen.
Yeah, it's just so indestructible Nick Chubb. I think that we've all just sort of come to expect just what a sturdy force he's been since he's come to Cleveland. And he rarely makes mistakes. He never fumbles the ball.
He has fumbled the ball.
Well,
I can think of a couple of times.
A few times, but it's such a rare. I mean, beyond that,
it is a rarity.
You don't see Nick, and then you think also, like, I know Rod Bloom or the Browns Blitz show talked with his brother last night or today about the idea that image of we see of Chubb lifting all that weight and all those things that he does in the off season. He goes down to see his old teammates in his high school, and it's just a crushing blow. So
I think he has the capacity to come back. We'll have to wait and see.
Mm-hmm.
I know the sports writers want to speculate, and let's let the doctors do all the thinking and the hard work. I hate to tell this to the beat writers in Cleveland, but they're the experts. You're not.
Elliot, what are your thoughts this week? I didn't have a chance to really listen to your take about Nick yet. Where are you
Yeah,
at with
I would
everything?
echo that. He was taken in the same draft as Baker Mayfield. As
Yeah.
far as I'm concerned, especially from the offensive point of view, this has never been Baker Mayfield's team. It never was. It was always Nick Chubb's team. It
Right.
still is. It was never Deshaun Watson's team. It has been Nick Chubb's team. This has been a run-first team from the get-go. Nick Chubb has been our offensive superstar. You could say that it may be Myles Garrett's team because he's been the greatest superstar that we have had in Cleveland. But from the offensive point of view, clearly Nick Chubb has been the superstar of this team. Injuries are a part of this sport. It is unfortunate. Nick Chubb has been injured, by the way. 2 consecutive years he missed games. So it's not like Jim Brown. Jim Brown was the guy that played every single game of his career, never missed anything.
Right.
Only missed a few snaps, maybe twice in his career, I believe. But we knew that Nick Chubb had an injury at Georgia, which was very serious. And it was kind of amazing that he recovered. He had almost the same injury on the same knee. This time it looked terrible. We've seen people come back from amazing, from horrible looking knee injuries before. We just really don't know. If you saw the championship game with Ohio State in the Jim Tressel era, Willis McGahee blew out his knee, and I thought, oh my gosh, there's no possible way that Willis McGahee will ever play in the NFL. What a terrible tragedy this is, and he wound up playing. I don't want to limit Nick Chubb's potential comeback, but as Steve said, we really have to leave that up to the doctors. We have to leave it up to God. We don't really know what we're talking about as sports writers. I will say, however, that it's not completely hopeless. There are articles in the medical literature about the return to play from reconstructive knee surgery, and I've looked up articles in the Orthopedic Journal of Sports Medicine and in the National Institute of Health, and there are instances of athletes in the NFL who have had multiple knee surgeries and have come back and played at a high level. In particular, I would like to mention the career of one Thomas Davis, who played 16 years in the NFL. He had his ACL, the same ACL, torn 3 different times. Wow. And he played 9 years after the 3rd ACL tear, and he managed to make the Pro Bowl 3 times after the 3rd ACL tear. Won a Walter Payton Man of the Year award. Wow. Now, he was not a running back. He was a linebacker, but that's, a reasonably close, similar kind of amount of athleticism. So I don't want to say what's possible, what's impossible, what's different about his particular case. I just don't want to close the door and say that, it's all over for Nick Chubb. I don't want to make any kind of pronouncements. I don't want to say what's possible or what's impossible in this case. I want to just say that let's be patient and listen to what the doctor say.
Let me ask you this.
And be, let the doctors have their say and let God have his say rather than us stupid sports writers try to make predictions.
Let me ask you this question, like a follow-up to both of you. We let's say we don't know what's going to happen, but just on the technical side of things with Nick Chubb's contract and things that going forward, his contract, he had it through next season, correct?
Yes and no.
Okay.
He has no guaranteed money next season.
He's supposed to get paid 12.2, but it's all non-guaranteed.
What? I'm supposed to get paid $12.2 million also, but I'm not going to get any of it.
Well, same here.
So I guess my thing with the whole what could happen to Nick in the future, with specifically speaking about the Browns, I know there's been a lot of chatter even well before this injury of what the Browns would do with him. and I've been rooting for him to, come back and then give him an additional contract. But now with this is a serious injury. Is that I mean, where do you two land with that? We don't know.
We don't know.
I just, yeah, I just don't think I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, I think we've seen Nick Chubb play in a Browns uniform for the last time.
No, this is silly.
No, you don't think so?
He cannot be paid $12.2 million.
I'm not saying that at all. Yeah, right, exactly.
He does not have guaranteed money, so
okay,
the Browns will have to make some sort of adjustment. I imagine that they will make an offer to Nick, that they would have some sort of contingency where he would be allowed to be paid some amount of money while he is rehabbing. But it won't be $12.2 million. And then he would probably be allowed to have some sort of incentive-laden contract.
Right.
But I would think, that it would be, the number one priority would be to allow him to rehabilitate the knee on a reasonable schedule. That you wouldn't want to rush him back and hurry up and get into action for the opening day and make all the yards you can immediately. That would be really stupid. So I think that they would probably figure out, well, what's the rehab schedule got to be? Let's see if we can set something up that allows full recovery, number one, and then we'll try to set up some sort of offer based on that, and kind of make incentives based on a possible.
So you're saying, so Steve, I mean, too, you guys are both suggesting that, or Steve, I haven't heard yet, but do you believe that the Browns would still want to bring him back? I guess that's
why I don't know if he's going to play. So the contract is not going to be extended at $12.2 million.
Oh, I know that. No, I know.
Forget about that.
I knew.
If he hadn't gotten hurt, and you got to remember, this is his second contract. The way I look at the contract is the Browns felt that if he had a big year this year, they could possibly, without the injury, they could possibly extend him a couple more years with some voidable years and turn that 12.2 into something a little more realistic, but a little spread out a little more.
Right.
That's the way, looking at the contract and the way it's set up, and knowing Andrew Berry, how he does contracts, that would make perfect sense. But like what Elliot says, we don't know what kind of rehab he's going to have. So it's entirely a wait and see type situation.
Okay. Well, we will come back to that. Let's, we have a lot more to talk about. We'll continue to talk about Nick Chubb because he was the heart of the team, and part of that heart. So it gets, it's blown up in our faces there. Even before Nick Chubb had that catastrophe in the second quarter, the catastrophe of the game started in the opening seconds when Deshaun Watson throws a pass that Harrison Bryant probably could have caught, but it was just
was tipped.
Definitely could have.
It was also tipped at the defensive on the defensive line. Got to remember that.
So it starts off crappy. We're all sitting there. We're all stunned, like, what the hell just happened? And so we carry on. So let's jump. Then that happened. Then the injury happens, and then we pray that Deshaun Watson somehow will become this, saint, and he'll rise to the occasion, and he will bring the Cleveland, and actually the team took the lead for a good chunk of that game because Pittsburgh has nothing on offense. And yeah. So I guess, so in the end, the Browns blow it not the Browns. Well, but yes, I mean, there was a combination of things that happened at the end.
This was an entire team loss.
Okay, right.
I mean, everybody screams about Jedrick Wills. I am more upset at Posick and Teller for each committing 2 holding penalties that killed drives. I'm upset at Donovan Peoples-Jones for giving up about 30 yards in field position
one,
by
and
standing there and watching a ball go over his head.
And I appreciate that because we haven't that hasn't even been highlighted this week by the Cleveland media.
That's what I'm upset about.
I've never seen anything like it. Donovan Peoples-Jones looks like I've never seen him play that poorly. You get that sense after you get the sense that things aren't happening. And then today, Deshaun Watson is trying to kind of talk about how he starts the years off crappy anyway over his history, and that the players just aren't in sync and they're not on the same page. And I'm thinking, like, am I listening to like Baker Mayfield again, or what's going on? Because it's like,
no, he was referencing the 2019 season.
Okay.
They changed the offensive. They started 0-3,
Okay.
and then they won 10 games in a row.
I think it's just everyone's upset about what happened to Nick, and now everyone's really blasting Deshaun, and we're all concerned because everything's kind of happened all in the scope of it one night, and now we're all thinking, okay, what the hell is going to happen next? And it's young, it's still early, it's game 2, we're going into week 3. Steve, you're much more calm than most Browns fans, and
I don't panic.
Well, I know you don't, but what I'm saying is there's the other half of the Browns fan base that is literally coming apart right now. And I just wonder,
I know. It's like a bunch of petulant 4-year-olds who've lost their binky. Let's calm down, people.
I know, but how are we going to calm this thing down with Deshaun Watson and the rest of the team that are making bumbling mistakes? Is that going to be corrected? We'll get into talking about their next opponent, Tennessee, after the break. But I guess let's stick to Deshaun and some of the things here with the team. Where do you think we're going? Because a lot of people are seeing, and I know I've talked about it, and I know Elliot talked about it, and I'm like, dude, like, we're 8 games in, and I know we're this magical number of 10 or something. He had 6 games before, and now he's got. I just think you look at the numbers. I don't see a real swing that's going to show progression. We're seeing something that's very not getting much better, and I'm worried. So that's where I'm at with Deshaun.
Okay,
Steve, where are you?
I can understand that.
Yeah. So
and
then Elliot,
he had.
Come on after.
He had
Steve.
6 games in the Jacoby Brissett offense and 2 games in the Deshaun Watson offense. He's just a hair off. Mm-hmm. He's just a hair off. I mean, you think about that drive where they got the touchdown where Nick Chubb got hurt. You remember where it started? It started on the 5-yard line.
They had a couple drives. They did a couple of those long drives.
Troy Aikman a couple times during the second game said, Deshaun Watson's getting in rhythm. And he was getting in rhythm. Mm-hmm. But then, you got a quarterback who got super emotional and did 2 face masks. And like I said, everybody's mad at Jedrick Wills. I'm more mad at the two guys on the inside who know better than to hold on those plays. I mean, the entire offensive line at pass blocking stunk. The only good one was DeJuan Jones, and he had the highest pass blocking grade of anybody on the offensive line.
Do you think it's a whole intimidation thing? TJ Watt, I mean, just that fiery sort of.
I think it's just a history thing. I'll give you an example.
We talked about this. Yeah.
I live in Tennessee.
Yeah.
And the big thing on Monday morning here on Sports Talk Radio is why the University of Tennessee can't go to Gainesville and win. They haven't won in Gainesville in 23 years. They haven't won down there since T. Martin was the quarterback. We're including, Peyton Manning hadn't won there.
Right.
And last year's team, which was super, super talented and beat Alabama, they went down there and laid an egg. And they did it again this Saturday.
Yeah.
Sometimes teams have another team's number, i.e. Browns versus Bengals.
Right.
So it can happen.
Yeah.
On our preview show, our preview show, my one caveat, I kept saying Cleveland is more talented, but it's Pittsburgh.
Yep.
And that's what I kept saying. It can get in your head, and it got in their heads. That was a total
Yep.
team, top to
Well,
bottom.
and the minute
lost.
the game started, the way that it just started, it just it resurfaced right off the top at the top.
Yeah, but
of
as a Browns fan, watching that Pittsburgh offense, did you have any confidence in that Pittsburgh offense?
No. I mean,
I was sitting there in the beginning of the fourth quarter thinking, hell, just run the ball, and if you have to punt. They're not going to do anything. You can run the clock out. They held the ball in the fourth quarter for more than 10 minutes because Pittsburgh was
they did. They dominated everything. They had 83 plays to 50 some plays, 23 minutes to 14 minutes. I mean, everything was dominated by the Browns. Yeah.
Going forward, am I worried about Deshaun Watson? No. I'm going to, like I said on the defense, I wasn't going to crown the defense until after week 6. I'm not going to bemoan the offense until after week 6.
Okay.
I want to wait and see how this plays out.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Elliot, where are you at right now with Deshaun and what we've been talking about?
Well, I'm very concerned about Watson. On the other hand, at the beginning of the year, I thought that Pittsburgh had the best defense in the division. Saw nothing to cause me to change my mind.
Okay.
TJ Watt is an awesome talent, and he, did very well against DeJuan Jones as expected. But they also have talent on the other side of the line also, and they beat up, Jed Wills. That's also not a surprise, and they really made life difficult for Deshaun Watson. So, yes, Deshaun Watson had a terrible game. The thing that most concerns me, there are two things actually that concern me. One was the face masking calls, which to me signified a emotional breakdown. He lost his composure, in my opinion. The quarterback cannot do that. He's going to be the leader of the offense, and he just really failed in that regard. The other thing that really, really I did not like was seeing some of the deep balls from Deshaun Watson, where he threw the ball as if the receiver were breaking one way and the receiver broke the other way. And then I have to ask myself, well, did the in other words, the receiver and the quarterback were not on the same page? And I have to ask myself, well, is it the receiver that is on the wrong page, or is it the quarterback that's on the wrong page? And, in particular, there was a specific play that Marquise Goodwin, was off in the wrong quadrant of the universe. And I thought, you know what? Marquise Goodwin probably doesn't have that many opportunities to be the featured deep threat because he's not the regular wide receiver, So I didn't think that the veteran wide receiver who only has a few deep routes to run in the game plan against Pittsburgh, I didn't think he was going to mess that up. I think probably Deshaun Watson probably messed that up, with let's say 60% confidence. And so I'm wondering, whether it's a question of preparation. Yeah. And I really didn't feel confident that he was preparing. I also felt, some of the protracted or prolonged scrambles that Deshaun Watson took. I wondered if those were really necessary. Were the receivers, that's what I hate about watching games on TV. You can't really tell how well covered the receivers actually are. Is it the case that Pittsburgh's secondary is really that good that they covered the Browns wide receivers like a blanket, because they didn't even look at Donovan Peoples-Jones. He only had I think 2 targets the whole game. Was Pittsburgh's secondary really that good, or was Deshaun Watson just immediately going to go improvise, scramble around, and look for some kind of improvisational play? Yeah. And what it looked like to me, man, it looked like, oh man, this is the way Johnny Manziel used to play. I started calling Watson the Shawnee football. This is the Shawnee football, man. This is the kind of crazy thing that we used to see from Johnny Manziel, and making ridiculous, unnecessary penalties, and just kind of going crazy back there.
Elliot, on
I
the
just had
penalty
this
thing,
uncomfortable feeling. I was not comfortable with
penalties.
Deshaun Watson.
let me
And
ask you
that's
this.
the part that
Yeah.
really concerns me.
We're going to break here real quick, but on the topic of the penalty thing, we see players like, let me just give examples. Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, these guys have done runs where they do try to stiff arm the guy. I've seen, we've all seen them do it. So are they just stiff arming and putting the
No,
arm
it's easy. It's easy to understand how you can, get your hand tangled up in a face mask from time to time. But Watson, man, he was dragging the face mask for 2-3 seconds. I mean, it was bad.
Yeah,
it was bad. It was nasty.
It wasn't
for
necessary.
A quarterback to do that. It's really unusual. To do it twice, it's crazy. I think it was crazy. It was disturbing. There was nothing good about it. It just made me very, very uncomfortable with Deshaun Watson as a leader. It was not at all.
Yeah, I read a statistic. We're going to go to the break here right now in a moment. One of the stats that I read, Ohio, I think betting.com, they came out with some stat about the negativity of quarterbacks across the league based on social media posts and interactions. And I guess Deshaun,
let's base things on that.
Yeah, so just Deshaun Watson is number 2 most negative quarterback. Okay, with that, we're gonna break. This is the Fanatical Elfz
Show. Really scientific.
We'll be right back, everybody. Okay, we are the Fanatical Elfz Show. Welcome back. Boy, those commercials were fantastic.
Did we sell a bunch of stuff? Am I going to get paid a whole bunch of money now?
Well, let me tell you guys, I know folks, we come on here and these guys are voluntarily coming on every week. Our product is growing because you guys are listening to us, but this is not a money maker. But we do this because we love the Browns. But I will tell you guys,
you're telling me this
I
now.
Did talk to I know. I talked to the guys at the Fans First, and we did do some those advertisements for those free tickets back in the day, and we've been doing this back since April. So, guys, I think we could see a few pennies here in the next few weeks. So I'm a little excited about that. So you can go buy your McDonald's Happy Meal.
I got a penny any poker game to go to next month.
All right, let me ask you a couple more.
Let me just say one thing. And this is driving me crazy, and it's been driving me crazy for a couple of days now. People saying that Deshaun Watson's not doing the work. That's a load of crap. According to the coaches and his teammates, he is putting in the work. He is even before training camp and after OTAs, he was constantly having his face in the playbook. So it's not that. It's just he's just a hair off. His timing is off. The speed of the game is still a little too fast for him.
And I think, Stephen, I think
also he played way too angry Monday night.
Well, that's what I was getting, Steve. I was getting into that part because that's the kind of part that reminds me of Baker. And I know I'm not talking about Baker right now, but the emotional, like when we were talking about Johnny Football and then Baker, these guys and you could, we've all said it. We could all see the sense that.
But he needs to have fun.
I agree
to have a little fun.
I agree. And I think that's where there's a real sort of something going on. So this is, I guess, before we get into Tennessee, my other issue that I had the other night on my solemn podcast, Johnny Cleveland, was talking about Steady Eddie, aka Kevin Stefanski. And I'm worried because now, I want Kevin to succeed, and I think he still can. But there's something that, and this goes back to Deshaun, what's happening between coach and Deshaun, and what can coach or is coach doing like this week, hopefully, to maybe settle Deshaun down and make the game fun, because I think we're all, part of the panic is what's going on. This looks a lot like what we've seen in the past with our offense, and it's stymied and it's not really going very well. That first play, just to like throw this out at you, and I'd like to know your take on this. That very first play of the game, and I saw some analysts talking about this on one of the social media things, but it was a 3-man tight end. They had Amari Cooper, and then they had 3 tight ends. Is that correct? And they had everybody spread out. And
they
and
sent Nick Chubb in motion to the
wide.
other side of the field.
Yeah. Okay. It just seemed like it. People have been critical. Like, why would you want to open the game against Pittsburgh? And I mean, what were they trying to do there? Were they trying? And I guess it just gets to the whole idea of like, what is Kevin? Is he? It seems like he's trying to outsmart everybody else and just not, just I don't know. So that's been some of the criticism that I hear, and just wanted to go around the room real quick before we start talking about Tennessee. Steve,
simple play to start to get Watson in a little rhythm.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not an NFL head coach, nor am I an NFL offensive coordinator. It is odd that he's throwing it to Harrison Bryant, who I think is a total waste of a team roster spot. The guy can't catch and the guy can't block. He definitely can't block. And he started his career as an offensive lineman. You would think he could block. So, maybe I might have gone. I don't know.
Let me ask you this on that specific play. On that play, though, what I saw is that, and I'm not an NFL coach, but I've coached some football. It seemed to me when you watch Deshaun if you slow it down, Deshaun was, in my opinion, he wasn't even set. I mean, literally, he came back and flung that ball out there.
Well, it got tipped. You got to remember, it also got tipped.
Okay,
I went back and looked at it, and you could see the guy tipping the ball.
Still, the way it was even before the tip. It seemed to me like I watched a replay, like it was like a haphazard. It wasn't a focused attempt to make an accurate throw. It was a quick throw.
I don't know.
I thought the footwork. When I went back and slowed it down, it didn't look like Deshaun. It looked almost like he wasn't really set. I don't know. Maybe I'm overlooking at that. But anyway, Elliot,
I'm not going to break down the first play of a game.
Well, I think it just goes
forever.
Yeah, but it's getting to this whole thing about execution, and that's where I get concerned because
that's play calling, not execution. That's why Kevin Stefanski
I got no problem
start that way.
I got no problem with throwing a ball to a tight end. I don't.
Yeah, well, okay.
I really don't either. Okay. I mean, I can understand why he did it. Crowd's all hyped to get the ball first. Quick little easy throw, get about 3 or 4 yards. Then you give the ball to Nick Chubb, and you got a first down. Okay. So I can understand it.
Things do tend to get blown up over on that side. It's TJ Watt's side of the field.
Actually, it was Highsmith's side of the field. TJ Watt was on the other side.
Was he on the other side? Oh, I thought it was. It was not on the right side of the field.
No, it was on the left side.
Oh, left side of the field. Well, my memory is backward, but okay. Well, then that makes even more sense.
Yeah. I can understand it.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me.
Okay.
But I wouldn't criticize throwing the ball to a tight end. That
okay.
Just what's so stupid about throwing the ball to a tight end?
I'm not saying that necessarily. I'm just saying I don't think overall, again, that the quarterback and the head coach, my underlying concern that going into this season again was that there just has always been, and I'm not even talking about Deshaun. I'm talking about the guy that came before Deshaun and Baker Mayfield. Everyone wants to. Okay, what I'm
just
getting
shoot all the tight ends then.
No
more tight ends.
I'm getting at the idea. I'm getting at the idea.
Trade them to Cincinnati. We don't want them anymore. Just have wide receivers and running backs. No more tight ends.
I'm getting at the idea that it's the coach. No, I'm talking about Kevin Stefanski.
Hire the coaches. We don't need any coaches.
I'm just saying that there seems to be a disconnect, and that's where I'm concerned. A lot of fans are that.
How do you get a disconnect? I see a guy who's in a new offense and is only going into that game. He only played one game.
You're 8 games in.
6 games were the Jacoby Brissett offense.
I don't care. It's still Kevin Stefanski. It's Kevin
It's a
Stefanski coaching.
totally different offense.
It's
You
Kevin
gotta,
Stefanski. I just don't. I think there have been issues that have come up with past quarterbacks, and there are issues that are coming up now. And I don't think these issues are going away. And I think the fan base, not, and I'm speaking about people that are irrational, like me sometimes. I don't think they're going to settle for this whole thing. This is going to, like, if they lose on Sunday to Tennessee, I mean, I don't even know what to. I mean, it's going to be a living hell in Berea. The fans are already off on the edge of their seats. They're coming off this huge grief of what has happened to Nick Chubb,
well,
and I don't know. I'm
the
speculating.
human mind,
Yeah,
the human mind can create expectations on falsehoods, and
true.
let's just temper our expectations. How about that? I
Okay.
mean, let's
yeah.
see what
I,
Kevin Stefanski can do on a short week.
okay.
He's
So let's
shown in
talk
the
about that.
past that
Yeah.
he can do a short week. This
So
is a
Steve,
nice opponent to get better
tell
on.
us about that. To tell us about Tennessee, because you did a little research. You know, you have a little history with them. You live down there. What are your I mean, Deshaun's had some good history against them. Relatively.
Yeah, he's thrown 19 touchdown passes against the most team he's ever thrown. You know, the most touchdown passes he's thrown against any team. A lot of people will say, well, that's before Mike Vrabel. No, Mike Vrabel was the head coach in 2018, and that's when Deshaun came into the league.
He's been there that long. Wow.
Yeah, they of course they're going to run the ball with Derrick Henry. I mean, this last game against the Chargers, I believe he ran 46 times and Tajay Spear ran 28 times. Now, Tajay Spear scares me.
Wow.
He's a little shifty running back out of Tulane.
Tulane,
he was a third-round pick. I wanted the Browns to draft him. That's how much I like this kid.
Oh, I love that kid. Yeah.
He reminds me a little bit of the Steelers' Chris Warren, who had success against the Browns a little bit until they shut him down. Tannehill is Tannehill. I mean, he has the potential to make, to have a good game and also have a bad game. Against New Orleans, he threw 3 picks and had a quarterback rating of 28.8. Against the Chargers, which has the worst defense in the NFL, he had a quarterback rating of 123 and threw, and was throwing the long ball. Yeah. So you basically, what you have to do is you got to put pressure on Tannehill, take away Derrick Henry. And so far the Browns have been very good against the run. And before anybody says, yeah, the Titans are also good against the run. Well, they played the Saints without Alvin Kamara and they played the Chargers without Austin Eckler. So let's see what they can do. But you put the pressure on Tannehill. His completion percentage goes down to about 50%. That's what the Saints did, and the Saints have a pretty good defense. I think they're the 4th best defense. And they pressured him, and they pressured him, and he threw interceptions. So and basically their defense, of course, they've got the big Jeffrey Simmons, big All-Pro defensive tackle. He's a stud. They have very good pass rushers. Their linebackers aren't bad. They can't cover. Their secondary is really banged up, but they do have Kevin Byard back there, who's a ball hawk. But their other corners tend to give up a lot of yardage. So far, they have given up the 2nd most passing yards in the NFL. Exactly 305 yards passing. Both Carr and Herbert, and both the Saints and the Chargers had a receiver who had over 100 yards and a touchdown. Now their defense hasn't allowed a rushing touch. Their defense has not allowed a rushing touchdown and not allowed a back to have more than 50 yards. So that's where this game is going to be won. The Browns got to run the ball, and that's why I think they can do it. Their line is a better run blocking line than a pass blocking line right now. But you do some long handoffs to Elijah Moore. You put Watson in the shotgun a little bit more. Just got to get him in rhythm. Once you get him in rhythm and play smart, then I think they can beat him.
Elliot, you if you're watching this or if you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify, Elliot has now brought out some graphics of the teams.
I love these graphics.
Show some comparisons. So, Elliot, go ahead and explain what you see here between the Browns and the Titans for Sunday.
Well, yeah, it's basically it's a pictorial representation of what Steve was saying. I'll go back to the Browns defense. The dark blues represent super studs, greens above average, yellow average, orange below average, and red means really below average. And they're based largely on Pro Football Focus grades and some weighting from last year and also what they've done so far this year. And Pro Football Focus grades on their performance on each play, how well they executed their assignment. And what we really want to know is, well, how good are these players actually? And so I've tried to kind of grade them on their ability rather than just the execution of plays. So I've used my own judgment a little bit on that point. The Browns' defensive line is really, really good. Zadarius Smith, however, did not practice today.
He practiced today.
He did? Okay, the last thing that I saw, maybe it was a day old, said that he did not practice.
No, he practiced today.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll take that under advisement. Also, Greg Newsome missed a practice. I guess it must have been yesterday.
He also missed today.
Okay, so that might mean that we'll see some backups for Greg. We hope that he'll get better. And on the Titans side, Derrick Henry is really their big gun. It's Derrick Henry's team on offense. He, according to Pro Football Focus, is not playing as well this season as he did last season. That's why he's not a blue box. He's a green box. And he also missed practice today. He was limited practice, or I should say earlier in the week. He was a toe injury.
He was designated rest day today.
Oh, is that it? Okay.
According to
maybe he's okay. Maybe we'll see him at full strength then. But in any case, he did not practice. But maybe he's okay. All right. Also, I would call your attention to the fact that our friend Chris Hubbard, who played in 2018 for the Browns and then was injured in 2019, 2020, 2021, and 22, but still on the team for some kind of reason that I cannot explain, is the starting right tackle for Tennessee, and he's given a green box by Pro Football Focus. I couldn't bring myself to do that on this visual aid, so he's orange.
That's funny.
I just don't think that he's really – I just can't see him surviving the Cleveland Browns pass rush. I just really can't imagine that he's going to be that effective.
Yeah.
And so I think that the Browns really do have a tactical advantage. Our line is their line. They should be able to harass Ryan Tannehill all day long. They do have DeAndre Hopkins out there. And remember, we were trying to say, we need to sign DeAndre Hopkins.
Right.
Pro Football Focus is saying that he's really just kind of an average receiver so far this season.
Well, that'll be an interesting reunion because, DeAndre and Deshaun, that goes back a ways. So
that's true. Mm-hmm. But he's getting passes from Ryan Tannehill now, not Deshaun. But DeAndre Hopkins has never been really a burner. He's not really a fast guy. He's just very good at coming down with the ball and fighting for possession. And they also have Treylon Burks on the other side. He's also a very good receiver, but not really a superstar. And
I don't recall.
They can catch the ball.
Juan Thornhill. Did we hear his name called Monday night? Was he out there?
Oh, yeah, he played.
Thornhill? Okay.
He played.
I didn't hear his name or didn't see him much.
Yeah, he was kind of hurt, but I guess he wound up playing. And
I tell you,
Yeah, he played.
Grant Delpit, what a fantastic interception he had early on in the game.
He's having a phenomenal first two games. He and JOK, and of course, even the backup linemen like Hurst had a monster game. Shelby Harris had a monster game.
Yes,
that's good to see. Even Elliott, Jordan Elliott had a good game. So that shows you what kind of defense you got.
That's right. They have depth. Browns have depth behind all these blue boxes. They have guys with green boxes standing behind them. So they have depth that they can rest people and put in a rotation there. So it's going to be a long day for the Tennessee
if
Titans
I can say one thing about this offensive line. These guys are all undrafted players. Andre Dillard has had 11 starts at left tackle. Xavier Newman has had 5 starts, NFL starts. And Aaron Brewer, the center, has had 4 NFL starts. So that's what the Browns defense is going up against.
Okay. And they've looked pretty good because they've played against some lousy defenses so far.
Oh my God, San Diego! I mean, the Chargers are just god awful. They've scored 56 points in 2 games and are 0-2.
So the Browns are 3.5-point favorites at home. I think the point
went up a half a point.
I think the point spread is somewhere around 47, 48 points.
I find it hard to believe. But
or maybe less. Maybe it's 39. I'm trying to remember if it might be 39, 38 or 39. So, the Browns have averaged now 23 points. They scored 24 and 22. So their average is 23.
Titans average 14 and a half.
So Bloom,
21. They average 21.
They have more faith in the Browns offense than I do. I'm shifting now to the Browns offense on the bottom of the visual.
Sure.
And the Titans are on the top. They do have some talent on the defensive line. We mentioned Jeffrey Simmons, and that was a guy that I wanted to draft, but we traded that pick away in order to get Odell Beckham Jr. And so we were not able to draft Jeffrey. That was too bad. And you talked about Kevin Byard. Yeah, and they also have Amani Hooker up there, and
he's back from concussion, so he's going to play.
He's going to play. Okay. Roger McCreary, Sean Murphy Bunting are the cornerbacks. They get very high marks. I put some red boxes. Jed Wills just really has not had good games this season. And I'm also giving a big fat red circle to Deshaun Watson, who's ranked like number 30 out of 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. And he's had 8 games. He's got to really show something. Also, I argued with Joel Cade about Elijah Moore, but he's only caught about 1/3 of the targets that he's been given this year, although he is second in the team in reception yardage. So I argued about that and said, well, okay, maybe he should be orange, but getting 1/3 of the targets is just really not NFL standard. So I couldn't bring him up to a yellow box, even though he does have yardage. Donovan Peoples-Jones had a really good year last year for the Cleveland Browns. This year, he has not been targeted very much. It's really kind of weird. Well, you know what? I saw that play on the punt return. I saw that differently than you did. I think the rule is that when you get a punt, you're supposed to stand on the 10-yard line and not back up. And I think that that punt hit on like the number on the 7-yard line, didn't it?
I thought he was further up. I thought it was like he was at like the 20.
There was a couple punts where he was up around the 15 and past the 15.
Okay,
that one where they pinned him on the 5, he was like on the 18-yard line.
Yeah, I know, but I think what it was a deep punt, and so he's trying to like fake out the defenders, and but he had no reason to back up because the ball was hit so deep
Well, it
that
was so yeah. And what was he was in there? He went all the way back to what was he trying to do there? Like it was freaking me out. Like if he touches that ball, it's a
he
live.
thought it hit him, and
Okay.
but it didn't.
Okay.
But still,
wouldn't you know that if you were the guy? I don't know. It just seemed he discombobulated. Yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you.
maybe I missed that play.
Yeah.
But
Well, it was just a crazy sequence.
letting the ball go over your head when it's going to hit inside the 10-yard line.
Did you hear that?
Think was a bad play.
Steve, do you think that he felt that? Did he say that? Did anybody ask him that question?
It appeared like he thought it hit him.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. Okay.
But
all right.
Where was his head? I mean, he had a good game against Cincinnati. He caught a couple key third down passes.
Right. Okay. Sure.
In the second half.
Yeah.
But this game, he just looked, and usually he's a good route runner.
I know.
But this game, he was just wandering around out there.
Well, that last pass, I mean, he didn't catch it, but I mean, to me, that pass looked like it was sailed
way
well
over
past
his head.
Yeah.
They just need to get in sync. That's all. I'm not worried about it yet.
Well, let's do final takes then. Steve, we'll start with you since we're doing Tennessee. What are your impressions? What do you feel? What's going to happen Sunday? All that fun stuff. Yep.
Well, I hope the Browns will win. I think judging from Stefanski's pass, he is good on short weeks. I think he just needs to get Deshaun Watson in a rhythm. During Pittsburgh, when he got into a rhythm, he was playing well. He was making the right decisions. This is a team that is a little bit of a mystery. Tennessee, like I said, they supposedly have good rushing defense, but they really haven't played a good running back yet. If you have a good secondary like the Saints do, you can force Tennessee into third and longs, which is fantastic. I mean, right now, let me see here real quick. Tennessee on third downs is where is it? I can't find it. But anyway,
they're not very good.
No, they're not very good. When he's under pressure, he throws for like 50%, and his quarterback rating is 28.3.
And I think you said
so
Pittsburgh last week. They were
Tannehill.
4 for 14 on third down last week,
right?
Monday. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not very good on third down. And
you think it's going to be a low-scoring affair?
I'm thinking that even though Tennessee has a new offensive coordinator and is running a different offense than they did last year, Jim Schwartz still knows the personnel. So I will trust Jim Schwartz on knowing the personnel.
That's a good point. Yeah, good point. Elliot, what do you think?
I think that this is a time when we need to find out whether Deshaun Watson is Deshaun Watson or Deshaunny football. They're playing a team that does not have that much talent. This should be a high-scoring affair. This should be a wide open game with a lot of passing yards, and there should be some deep balls thrown.
Yeah, it's going to be a nice day there.
I don't want to see any face mask penalties or any nonsense like that.
I want to see penalties.
I want to see passes completed with a high completion percentage, and I don't want to see the nonsense that we saw against Pittsburgh. Now it might be that it's Pittsburgh's defense that was that good, but we don't have that excuse against Tennessee because Tennessee is not that good.
Okay. Very good. Guys, I think it's going to – I'm not predicting a 36-33 score like I did last week with the Pittsburgh game, but I think it'll be much less. I think the Browns do get a win in this game, but it's going to be a nail biter in moments, and I'm hoping, like you guys are hoping, that Deshaun, has had a history of playing relatively well against Tennessee, and he can get some yardage through the air, and the players can get back on the same page, especially the wide receivers, and maybe we'll see a deep ball connected with Marquise Goodwin. That would be a nice highlight. So, guys, thanks again for joining us here on the Fanatical Elfz Show. These guys bring it every week. I talk on the other shows endlessly. Hopefully you guys listen. I give you props all the time. These guys come and they have a wealth of knowledge if you haven't figured that out. And we've gained so many followers to listen to these guys over the last couple of weeks. I think we've almost 200 followers on the X, and we're, all you got to do is follow us on Apple, Spotify. That the next show will be coming up. It pops up on your phone. You can tune us in. We've got a couple. We'll have some lead in to Sunday's game. We'll have the Any Given Sunday show first thing in the morning Sunday. I think some of us might be then coming back for a pregame. I don't know if you're available, guys, but we'll try to do maybe a little bit of a pregame show. It sounds like Elliot's going to be on the road. I'm actually not. I will be at the home today, this week. So we may try to get a pregame shout out to everybody too, and then a postgame. So guys, take care. Thanks again for joining us. This is the Fanatical Elfz Show, and go Browns. Woof,
Go
woof,
Browns.
Woof, woof, woof. Browns, you tune in.